Good evening, my friends. It's Indiana Holmes for Story Time, and we continue tonight with our new book, Mystery in White. Chapter 9, Studies in Ethics. For a few minutes after Mr. Maltby left him for his tour to the attic, David sat and smoked. He had rather less fear than the average, although his courage had never yet been severely tested, and he was not worried personally that an alleged murderer was in the adjacent kitchen, trying at that moment perhaps to remove bloodstains. Smith might be homicidal, but he had shown no symptoms of insanity, and it was not likely that he would suddenly leap back from the kitchen and plunge the bread knife in David's back. There were others, however, whose nerves might be more severely strained by the situation if they became fully aware of it, and Mr. Maltby's policy of endeavoring to keep a wild animal tame and unsuspecting was obviously sound. Other matters also needed the soothing influence of tobacco smoke. David possessed a normal respect for property, and his ethical as well as his legal sense was troubled by the free use that was being made of the house. He imagined himself the owner, returning suddenly and plugging the uninvited guests with indignant questions. "What do you mean by coming into my house? The door wasn't locked. We had to get some shelter. Well, why not somewhere else? There wasn't anywhere else. We were nearly frozen. And when our party had an accident. Did that excuse you for drinking my tea? We needed it pretty badly. We had an idea you'd have offered it to us if you'd been here. All right, let it go. But you're using the bedrooms. Yes, too. Suppose I need them for myself. For your own party? In that case, of course, you must have them. And you can't turn out a girl with a damaged foot and a man with a high temperature. Do you suppose we'd have used them if there hadn't been real need? And do you suppose we'd have even used your towels and dried ourselves if we hadn't been up against it? Some of us might have got pneumonia. You've miscounted. 3 bedrooms are being used. I hold no brief for the 3rd. All right, let that go. But suppose I hadn't come back. Suppose I hadn't come home at all. We didn't think you would. Why not? For the same reason that we're here, the weather. But you knew I'd been here. Or somebody. Who laid the tea and put the knife and put the kettle on the lit fires. We had no idea. Did you try to find out? Obviously. How? We searched the house. What about outside the house? Impossible. Are you quite sure? Look. Having reached this point of imaginary conversation, he jumped up and went to the front door. Opening it, showed an imaginary interrogator, the banking snow in the porch. If he had intended to stagger the imaginary one with the sight, he forgot this in his own astonishment. The bank had mounted almost beyond belief, and it was now glimmering white like a white wall. I don't believe we could get out of this door now if we tried, he said aloud. So tell me this, old chap. How the devil did you get in? He closed the door, relieved by his further argument in his favor. They couldn't get away, which in turn, its turn, meant that the owner of the house couldn't return and the imaginary cross-examination couldn't take place. For the first time in his life, David was realizing the true meaning of the word snowbound. And the situation being what it is, his mental defense continued as he returned to the fire. Are we to die of cold and starvation when the means of staving off each is at hand? Is that humanly reasonable? Would a shipwrecked party thrown up on a desert island wait for legal permission to eat the coconuts? The legal aspect brought him suddenly to an entirely different question. What is the penalty for harboring murderers, if any? He turned towards the kitchen. He listened to vague sounds. Then another sound caught his ear, and he turned to the staircase. Lydia was coming down for the unsatisfactory interview she described on her return to Jessie. Any news? She asked, as she reached the bottom. Have you? He parried. Dear brother, I asked first, retorted Lydia. Don't be irritating. Well, I have one bit of news, he said. Our friend Smith has returned. What? That horrible man? Shut up, growled David. He's in the kitchen. Oh, thanks for the warning, she answered, lowering her voice. What's he doing in the kitchen? Getting clean, so now run upstairs, or he may come out and see you. Lydia regarded her brother indignantly. Will he eat me if he sees me? She demanded. Really, David, you're being rather bright. Or is there something you haven't told me? I know he's a sort of suspect, but, well, if he's a sort of suspect, why don't we keep clear of him? Interrupted David. Do go. Where's Mr. Maltby? Upstairs. What is he getting into? What? Is he getting to bed too? Of course not. Then what's he doing? I don't know. Try again. Why should I know? I don't know why you should, but I know you do. You'll go to heaven, David. You're such a rotten liar. What's Mr. Maltby doing upstairs, or am I too young to be told? David took a deep breath. Mr. Maltby is poking around upstairs, urged by the insatiable curiosity, he said. You forget he has the scientific mind. I didn't see him on the first floor. Then he must be on the second. That's the top floor, isn't it? Lydia, does all this matter? Not a bit, darling. I'm only trying to irritate you as much as you're irritating me. But I think I've taken on more than I can manage. I say, aren't we peace and goodwilly? So that's the lot, is it? No, there's one thing more. If you want it, he replied. The snow outside, that is, outside the door, is higher than ever, and it's still coming down. Thought for the day. The more the snow comes down, the more it comes up. Never mind. Dear, we're all tired. Perhaps we'll love each other the next time. Kind regards. To Mr. Smith. As she ascended and disappeared, he turned again to the kitchen. At that same moment, the door opened, and the man who called himself Smith took shape out of the shadows. Hello, how are you getting on? Asked David. I've had a wash, replied the man. Well, cleanliness is next to godliness, said David, feeling right again. The man nodded. David found himself staring at his big, rough hands. Where's the others? Inquired the man, after a little silence. They'll be down in a few moments, David answered. Have a fag. I don't mind if I do, grunted the man. Upstairs, eh? David offered his case and struck a match. When the man's cigarette was gleaming between his thick lips, he moved casually towards the staircase. David moved casually with him. What's all this about? Exclaimed the man suddenly. What's all what about? Asked David innocently. No think, muttered the man. He sat down at the bottom of the stair and puffed for a while. David studied his face through his own tobacco smoke. The man had a pasty complexion, and although he had said he had washed, the statement was necessary to impress an otherwise doubtful fact. His eyes, surely beneath heavy black eyebrows, were too close together, and he had a boxer's nose. Probably he had helped to give somebody else a similar identity mark. Well, it might be worse than it is, mightn't it? He commented with a rather suspicious change of attitude. The weather, mightn't it? Answered David. I mean, air. In here I agree. There's warm fires. One might even describe them as scorching. What? I merely agreed with you. Go on counting your blessings. The man frowned, then smiled. Well, air's another blessing, he continued. Plenty o' stuff in the bloody larder. I take it you have looked, murmured David. Yes, and I think it wasn't the first. You were not. All right, then, so nobody can say what I begun it. No, and when the bloke what is 'ouse belongs to comes, finds there ain't no so much as what there was when he left, don't blame me. David looked thoughtful. A new aspect of this man's presence was beginning to be drawn. Nobody was going to blame anybody, Mr. Smith, he said, so long as the stuff we remove is strictly perishable. What's that? Jerked Smith. Perishin'? David decided to apply a little test to the center of which was wrapped a warning. Listen, this is how I've worked it out, he replied. As a matter of fact, I was working it out in here while you were washing yourself in there. He nodded towards the kitchen. I'm really no happier about all this than you are. Eh? I mean, like you, I can't help worrying about the food we've taken, and that we may have gone to go on and go on and go on taking. Oh, we're going on, are we? Well, if I were imprisoned here all night, I expect we'll have to... Imprisoned? All right. You know the weather as well as I do. That's a fact. So I don't have to tell you that we may have to stick it here all night. That's right. In which case, as I was saying, we'll shake up hungry, won't we? Course. So, what? Suppose when we wake up tomorrow morning, it's still snowing. Then it will be a real white Christmas, and we mustn't turn it black. Looky here, exclaimed Smith, with a nervy impatience. Why can't you talk like an ordinary bloke? If you've got anything to say, say it and be done with it. I am longing to say it, and have done it, retorted David, and I should have said it and had been done with it years ago, but for your continual interruptions, perishable goods, to get back to our muttons. Mutton, do you want me to hit you? Try it on, governor. I should hate to try it on, but I may have to. Perishable goods are things to eat. If we are destined to have breakfast here, followed by lunch, tea, and Christmas dinner, we shall be forced to take more perishable goods, i.e., more things to eat. But we shall pay for them, and we shall confine our burgeoning to perishable goods, i.e., things to eat. We shall steal merely to live, and pay for what we steal. Well, that's all right. Quite all right. But it wouldn't be all right if I got interested in a book I happened to find here, and went away with the book in my pocket. The rest of you would probably jump on me. Get the idea? Odd good way. With a book in his pocket, answered Smith with a sudden grin. I was speaking of myself, responded David. I'm quite sure you wouldn't. Of course I wouldn't. There we are, then. If I went away with anything in me pocket, it'd be the Duchesses of Diamonds. David smiled back. Then it's very lucky, he said, that there's no Duchess here. Hey, where are you going? For Smith had risen from the stair and thrown his cigarette away. Stretch me legs, replied the man. Not upstairs. Why not upstairs? Well, you heard what Mr. Maltby said. That old bloke. Yes. Is he me father? It wouldn't probably be news to him. Then here's some news for you. We're all without permission here, and we're all in the same boat, and we ain't taking orders from nobody, see? He swung round and began to ascend, but he stopped halfway up. The stout figure of Mr. Hopkins came around the bend of the stairs to stop just as abruptly. "Hello, who are you?" exclaimed Mr. Hopkins. "Come to that, who are you?" retorted Mr. Smith. "No need to be imprudent," snapped Mr. Hopkins. "My name is Hopkins, sir. I suppose you're another off the train." "Well, you suppose wrong. I ain't off the train." Mr. Hopkins shrugged, then suddenly looked at the man more closely. "What's the idea?" he demanded. "Of course you were on the train. I saw you." Chapter 10. Woman Disposes. A dull flush spread over the Cockney's cheeks. The cheeks of Mr. Hopkins, on the other hand, became suddenly paler as he regarded a clenched fist uncomfortably close to his nose. "I'm a liar, am I?" shouted the Cockney. "Now then, there's no need to get so excited," muttered Mr. Hopkins. "No need to get you excited," retorted Mr. Smith. "Course it would excite you if a bloke called you a liar. I have another look at me." A faint perspiration glistened on Mr. Hopkins' forehead. "Yes, I see I was mistaken," he said. "I have never seen you before in my life, and I sincerely hope I never see you again." "And that's 'opey," growled Mr. Smith, "because I ain't snowed up ever since as you, so you'll after stick 'em see me. See? Well, how much longer are you going to stand there? Are you coming down or are you going up?" Mr. Hopkins swallowed and stepped aside. The Cockney brushed past him unceremoniously, deliberately barging him against the wall as he did. It was significant of Mr. Hopkins' mood that he accepted the insult without protest. For all his bragging, Hopkins is a confounded coward, thought David. But the Cockney's passage to the top of the stairs was still not free, for now there occurred a second block in traffic, and Smith found Mr. Maltby in his path, ready for further altercation. Smith glared at the old man, but the old man merely smiled back. "Going to have you a little look around?" he inquired genially. "Who's going to stop me?" replied Smith. "Why should anyone stop you?" answered Mr. Maltby, making space for him. "I wish you a pleasant tour, but don't go into any of the rooms without knocking. The ladies are in one, and there's a sick man in another. Thanks for the information." "Not at all. It was given to you for their benefit, not for yours. Oh, but this is for your benefit. There is one more room I wouldn't go into if I were you." "Oh? In that one?" Mr. Maltby hesitated for a moment, then responded, "I cannot say, but someone." "Whatcher mean?" demanded the Cockney, pausing while David and Mr. Hopkins stared. "You will always find, Mr. Smith, that I mean exactly what I mean. It is a time-saving method," returned the old man. "I am telling you that someone is in that room, and I do not know who it is." "Oh, I see. You mean you heard someone, or you didn't go in." "I went in. I don't get your. I don't and this doesn't surprise me." "What did you say you went in?" "They did not say anything." "Oh, then what did you say?" "I did not say anything either." "You just looked at each other and thought?" "I certainly did considerable thinking. You see, if I had spoken to the someone, I should have received no answer." The voice of Mr. Hopkins came up sepulchrally from the bottom of the stairs. You don't mean dead?" "Very definitely dead," nodded Mr. Maltby. "Only you will not see the body." Smith's inclination to continue the ascent seemed to be cooling. He glanced upwards with apprehension, and then suddenly exclaimed, Is this a joke?" "It did not present itself to me in that light," replied Mr. Maltby. "Nor, if you enter the room, is it likely to make you roar with laughter, Mr. Smith. You and I have reached this house together. I recall, you went by and away again for a period, so I have a longer acquaintance with it than you. It is not the pleasantest house I have ever been in. Well, why do you wait? Don't let me stop you." Mr. Hopkins seized the tempting moment. "Yes, he is coming down. Or are you going up?" he asked with a glassy grin. "Shrup," grunted the Cockney. There was a short pause. Then he inquired, "Which bloody room is it?" "Bloody," repeated Mr. Maltby reflectively. "A most appropriate term, but I shall not tell you which sanguinary room this is, Mr. Smith. No, I shall let you find out for yourself." He resumed his interrupted journey down the hall, but before the Cockney resumed his own journey, he shot out one more question. "Attic?" "Why should you think that?" questioned Mr. Maltby. "Why not? And also why?" "Bah!" grunted Smith, and went up. No one spoke for several seconds after he had gone. In a mood to ask questions, David forbore. But Mr. Hopkins, when he had fortified himself with a cigarette, showed less restraint. "I say, was that true?" he inquired in a low tone. "About that room?" "Ask that gentleman over there," answered Mr. Maltby, with a cynical glance towards the painting over the mantelpiece. "He might tell you. Of course, if you want my opinion," muttered Mr. Hopkins, "everybody's dotty." "Before many hours, everybody will be a dottier," said Mr. Maltby dryly, and turned to David. "I looked in on our patient on my way down. Thompson, I didn't like his appearance. I'm sorry to hear you say that. Do you think he's really bad?" "Well, if I had to guess his temperature, I should put it between 102 and 103. Whew! And still rising." "I've seen a man go to 107, observed Mr. Hopkins. "Ah, but that was possibly in India," suggested David gently. "As a matter of fact, young man, it was in India, though I don't care very much for your tone. Bombay. Stayed up for 3 days, but got through it. Then we may hope, Mr. Thompson, we'll get through it. Hello. Here comes our rather rude friend back again, and with my sister behind him. Smith looked surly and worried as he descended the stairs, but Lydia was all smiles. She appeared to be driving the Cockney before her, and halfway down the stairs she called out, "Silence, all of you, for a speech." David and she had not parted the best of friends, but now he welcomed her reappearance, for she struck a pleasant and much needed contrast to the prevailing atmosphere of the nerviness and the gloom. "Hear, hear," he murmured. "Don't be a goat. You can't say 'hear, hear' before a speech begins," she exclaimed. "It's the safest time to see it with your speeches." He replied with a grin. "There are no earthly chance of saying it afterwards." "Don't pay attention to the lad. It's only a brother speaking," responded Lydia. "Anyhow, whether I get my hears or not, this is what I've got to say. We've reached a point for all of us where we've got to come to a decision. What I mean is, we're all wondering and wandering around and about like a lot of lost sheep." "Eh?" blinked Mr. Hopkins. "Yes, I thought you'd take that up," said Lydia. "You've done a spot of wandering, haven't you?" She rejoiced secretly in his guilty flush. "And so has Mr. Smith here. I found him wandering too. This was our brilliant conversation in the passage above." "Hello?" I said. "Hello?" he said. "Where are you going?" I said. "I don't know," he said. "Then why go?" I said. That stumped you, Mr. Smith, didn't it? So down we came, and that little bit of the world's history is over. "Ah, then it was you, Miss Carrington, who returned this particular sheep to the fold?" smiled Mr. Maltby, while David thought, "What happened to his sis? She's gone away." "Course, you all know, watchern workin' twertin' abart," mumbled the Cockney. "I don't quite, though it sounds good," admitted David. "What's this decision we're supposed to make, Lydia?" "Why, to stop wandering about like lost sheep," she exclaimed, "and to organize ourselves into a normally functional community before the extraordinary situation entirely demoralizes us." She paused for approval or dissent. From Mr. Maltby she received approval. "Miss Carrington's idea seems to me most sensible," he nodded, "provided, of course, it can be carried out." "Then you go on with it," replied Lydia, "and show us how it can be carried out." But this time Mr. Maltby shook his head. "That's not such a good idea," he answered. "For the moment, I think I will content myself with a watching brief." "He's right," added David. "It's your baby, Lydia." "Very well. Here's luck to the baby," she said. "If it dies in infancy, it won't be my fault. Firstly, then, I decide that we shall pass a vote of confidence in our behavior." "You might remember that if my sister isn't intelligent, she's pretty," murmured David. "And you are neither," Lydia shot back. "And what I'm saying now is intelligent. Half our trouble is that we've got guilty consciences." "Oh, as..." Mr. Smith interrupted. "You can be excluded if you like, Mr. Smith," retorted Lydia. "Perhaps your conscience is less sensitive. But I keep on thinking how simply awful of us to be here like this, using the house as if it was ours, and then trying to make excuses for myself." "Same here," interposed David. "What about you, Mr. Hopkins?" asked Lydia. "You've taken possession of other bedrooms. Does it worry you at all, or not?" Mr. Hopkins frowned rather suspiciously. He was not quite sure about anything. "Well, I had to get dry, same as rest, didn't I?" he demanded. "Then it didn't worry you?" "I don't say. Well, one's got to admit the whole position is rather peculiar." "Only it doesn't worry you as much as you, I dare say." "Then it worries you, and you, Mr. Smith. I'm I'm out of this, replied Smith. That leaves just you, Mr. Maltby. How is your conscience getting along? If I am worried, it is not by my conscience, said Mr. Maltby. Just the same, Miss Carrington, I realize your point, and I consider it a good and physical psychology for it is impossible to function fluently through a sense of guilt. That is why any general, however wrong he may be, take Napoleon, to avoid the politics of mere contemporary examples, believe him and believe in himself to be successful, or dupe himself into such belief. Indeed, that is the main job of all politicians, who, through their own inefficiency, muddle nations into war. If they do not fool themselves into assumption that they are God-fearing idealists, they will never get the millions who must pay for their damage to believe the same thing, and they will lose the war. Here it endeth, the first lesson, murmured David. Then you think I'm foolish? Inquired Lydia. No, I'm sure you are not fooling yourself. The lesson was not intended for you, replied the old man. Probably I just wanted to hear my own voice. So, returning from the great wars to smaller conflicts, I see no logical reason why we should depress ourselves with a sense of guilt, since it was quite impossible for any of us to leave here tonight. Thank you for those kind words, smiled Lydia gratefully. You are being a tremendous help, and tomorrow I shall kiss you under the mistletoe. Now then, that vote of our confidence. Hands up for good opinion of yourself. 5 hands went up. Smith's went up last, as though suddenly fearing to be left out. Lydia laughed. Carried unanimously. Can we say that? Asked Lydia, and reminded her that there were 2 more hands upstairs. Oh, I'll go proxy for them, she answered, and held on to both her hands. Right one for Miss Noyes, whose perpetual approval I've got in advance, and left for one Mr. Thompson. Poor Mr. Thompson, I feel sure would do anything I asked him to. So the next step. What's the next step? Please go on helping me. Mr. Maltby, I'm really not quite as efficient as I seem. Well, suggested Mr. Maltby, perhaps the next step is to justify the good opinion. How right! You shall have 2 kisses under the mistletoe. I might even make it 3 if you'd tell me how the justification proceeds. A good start would be to keep a detailed account of the damage. Mr. Maltby, you're a genius. I don't show what we'd have done without you. Yes, we must appoint a hon, a treasurer, an honorable treasurer. Who will be honorable treasurer? I rather think that ought to be your job, David. Before I accept the honor, said David cautiously, what exactly does honorable individual do? He jots down all we take and all we break, and with the cost thereof, tea for so many, so much, dinner for so many, so much, broken cups, and so much, so many more things. There'll be plenty of those, and then, before we go, if we ever go, murmured David, we ought to add up the whole total. Add up so much for the use of the bedrooms, the bathroom, the towels, the serviettes, the tablecloths. We're not only taking towels and serviettes and tablecloths away with us. No, but they will have to be washed. How about the wear and tear of the carpets, not to mention the furniture and the massages? Don't be tedious, darling. Where was I? We total up the whole thing, add something for whatever I said, plus a good Christmas tip, and leave the amount on where? I know, the mantelpiece, under the watchful eye of the old gentleman with the spectacles and splendid head of hair, who is spying on us to see how we behave. Well, David, do you take this post? Okay, I take it. Good. You won't forget it when you're doing the accounts. that your job is an honorable one. You are working for glory and not for getting paid. Now then, next. What's next? Domestic staff? Who can cook? I can a bit, but I loathe it. Mr. Hopkins cleared his throat. He felt it very necessary for his dwindling reputation to make some contribution. Well, I've cooked around the campfire, he said. You know, roughing it, but, well, something I'm not quite sure. Then perhaps I'll have to cook after all, sighed Lydia, which means that you'll have to get things out of tins warmed up. I think I have to do something, replied Mr. Hopkins. You can and you shall. You and Mr. Smith can lay tables, and so on. Yes, that's right. I'll be at the club all night. That's right. No, that's wrong. Yes, that's right. I'll be the butler. That's right, exclaimed Mr. Hopkins with sudden enthusiasm. That's the idea. Carry trays up to the invalids. You can carry Mr. Thompson's tray up, said Lydia curtly, and that, Mr. Maltby, leaves you free to play the part of Father Christmas. I'm afraid I should make a very poor Father Christmas, Miss Carrington, answered the old man. We shall have to rule out Santa Claus this year. I have no intention of ruling out Santa Claus, retorted Lydia, though, of course, we won't insist that you play the role. I am only going to hang up my stocking, and I shall be bitterly disappointed if I find nothing in it. Make a note of that, David. Yes, and let me warn you all, so you won't feel ashamed of yourselves, on Christmas morning, that I am giving presents. She made the statement with good-humored defiance. Mr. Maltby, whose mind dwelt beneath the surfaces, had noted the defiance all along, defiance of the situation which, in her own words, was attempting to demoralize them. I wonder how a very excellent spirit will behave, he reflected, when or if the situation develops. Meanwhile, he awarded her high marks for her present attitude. David, on the other hand, wondered whether the attitude were not exceeding its logical limit. I am all for good cheer and all that, sis, he commented, but don't let's overdo it. Why not, she returned. Isn't everything being overdone? I'm fighting the absurd exaggeration of the snow and of all our position with its own weapons. I'm going to overdo it. I feel like Noel Coward's song, Something to Do with Spring, where the grass was too green and the lambs looked like rural deans. Only, of course, this is something to do with Christmas. Tomorrow is going to be a riot. Folks, that's another thing we'll have to talk about. The Christmas program. We're not going to sit on our thumbs all day. If this snow leaps on and keeps on leaping upon us, we'll have a party and a dance. But first things first, is anybody getting hungry? Come along, staff, step on it. We mustn't keep our family waiting for dinner. I may be honest and sober, but I am punctual. Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Smith glanced over at each other, then followed the girl obediently into the kitchen. Chapter 11. Jessie continues her diary. Lydia really is a nice person, one of the nicest I have ever known. I think she knows I'm rather lonely up here, though she doesn't know I'm also frightened. Well, sometimes I'm frightened. Not all the time, so she keeps popping in to say hello and to give me bits of news. How she does it with all the other things she's got to do, I don't know. She's taken on the cooking and the general managing now. That's why she's so busy. She came up and told me about it during what she called her first moment off. They all took it splendidly, she said, and I believe we're going to have a happy Christmas after all. I asked her what she'd said to them, and she rattled on about it for about 2 minutes. Her brother backed her up, as though she thought he would, and Mr. Maltby was also a good sport. I wonder whether Lydia feels the same way that I do about him. I must ask her next time. He's a nice old man, really. I think if he only wouldn't look right through you. I'm sure he sees right through me and out the other side. He gives me a funny sensation. What's more, I believe he knows it, because I caught him looking at me once, not through me that time, and as though he was thinking about me in a way I don't like. I don't mean like Mr. Hopkins thinks about me. Of course not. But in a way that made me remember I was once told I was a psychic. I hope I am not. Anyhow, I don't know how to spell it. But I was writing about Lydia. She said David and Mr. Maltby backed her up at once, but the other two only did so, she thought, because they were sort of roped in. They were all helping her in the kitchen, laying the table, etc. But she says they're like brewing storms. David is making out lists of things because, of course, we're paying for what we're taking. I told her I could pay my share, and I think he's also working out some games for tomorrow. It all seems very funny, though after all, why shouldn't we enjoy ourselves if we can? If we're still here on Christmas night, there'll be a dance. I wish my foot were better. I think it might be by then. I can dance anyway. She didn't know what Mr. Maltby was doing when I asked her, but she thought he'd gone to see how poor Mr. Thompson was getting on. When I begin to feel sorry for myself, I think of Mr. Thompson. He's worse. I'm glad she thought he'd gone to see Mr. Thompson, because I thought I'd heard someone moving in the passage, and if it hadn't been Mr. Maltby, well, who wouldn't it have been? I had one idea, but I'm not going to write what it was. I hope she'll be in again soon, though even then she won't be able to stop. She popped back once after she left to ask if I liked brown bread or white. One thing I'm glad of, I haven't had that horrible suffocating feeling, though once I nearly got it. It seems so silly. This, such a lovely room, really. It's the kind of bedroom you'd choose for our Christmas time. In fact, all this ought to be ideal. Oak beams, log fires, old-fashioned beds, and snow. It's what you'd want every year and never get except on Christmas cards. I expect, as Lydia said, the company that's wrong. That's it. Some of it, at least. If we could have chosen who we wanted to be with, it would have been different. Yes, but it might then, but maybe then I would have chosen myself. Someone's coming. It's Lydia. I know her step. She brought a large cup of Bovril, and still certainly has taken away that sinking feeling. I was hungrier than I knew, and from what she said, they all seemed to feel the same way about things downstairs. You never saw such greedy eyes, she said, as when I took the first course into the dining room. Didn't one of them men take it in? I said because she'd told me they were going to do that kind of work. No, they were more trouble than they were worth, said she. So I put them in their places and told them to stick there. They did nothing but get in the way and bicker. What about Mr. Thompson? What are you giving him? I asked. He's drowsy. He didn't want anything, she answered. And I said, poor Mr. Thompson, but just as well feed him a cold and starve him a fever. I don't know. Why am I writing all this conversation down? But it gives me something to do and stops me from thinking too much. And that's one of my troubles. I think too much. I hope poor Mr. Thompson isn't getting into really bad shape. That would land us in a mess because we can't get a doctor. I wonder why this house hasn't got a telephone. It's funny, but when people are in trouble, you like them more. I didn't like him, Mr. Thompson, in the train, but I see him better now just because I'm sorry for him. He wants a sweetheart if ever a person did, but I'm sure even if he died, they wouldn't like him enough for that. I've just read what I've just written. But anyhow, I know what I mean. I asked Lydia what was the next course, and she wouldn't tell me. It's got to be a surprise. The fire's gone down a bit, and I'll ask her to make it up when she comes back in. No, why should I ask her to? She does everything. My foot feels better. I'm sure I can do it. Well, I did do it, but it wasn't an easy thought. Anyhow, the fire's blazing away now, and it was a surprise. I don't mean the salmon tinned, but David who brought it. I thought I'd save my sister the trouble this time, he said. I hope you don't mind. She's working like a horse. Of course, I don't mind. Yes, she is, I said. She'll be dead by the time she goes to bed tonight. Not if I know her, he said. She's as strong as an ox. Then he laughed and said, I'm sorry if I'm mixing animals. I wish I could help her, I said. Well, that's more of your bad luck than hers, he answered. How are you feeling? I'm all right, I said. Then he laughed and argued again and said, Yes, you always say that, don't you? Well, I am, I said. I got out of bed just now and I made up the fire. Only don't tell your sister, will you? Or she'd never forgive me. I'm not sure that I'll ever forgive you either, he said. You've got to look after yourself. He could have gone then quietly and quite easily. There was nothing for him to stay for, but he seemed rather to like the stay, and somehow it was very strange. He looked round the room and he said, And I'm not sure that I'm here or that I'm sorry for you either. It's nice and comfortable here and cheerful. We're not quite happy and cheerful downstairs. Aren't you? Asked Anthony. Aren't you? I asked. Not by a long chalk, he answered. Half the time we sit in the gloomy silence. Then someone makes a funny remark. It's generally me, but nobody laughs. I ought to be there, I told him. I'd laugh. I believe you would, he replied. Even Mr. Hopkins isn't telling his usual yarns about when he was in India. My boy, what's what? Was that one of your funny remarks? I said. Anyhow, you see, I'm laughing. But I should have thought Mr. Hopkins would have talked enough for everybody. He did on the train. Yes, he's in his element in trains, said David. I call him David here, but not actually yet. But this house seems to have dried him up. Well, I think he's best dried up, I said. I never wanted to hear his beastly voice again. I expect, I said, it is with more meaning than I meant to, because he suddenly looked at me rather hard. Hello, why did you say that? He asked. I certainly didn't want to tell him why. It had just come suddenly. I know a lot of men. Too much, I expect, but Mr. Hopkins is the sort I really can't stand. I don't know how to deal with them. Maybe they're all right, really, and can't help it. I've got views about people not being able to help themselves. But even so, it doesn't make any difference to how you feel about them. You can't help your feelings either. Isn't it awful the way my pencil, runs away with me? Now, I've got to look back and see where I was. Nothing, I said, but he went on looking at me rather hard. It's funny what thoughts come. I was thinking, I do hope my nose isn't shiny. Miss Noyes, he said, please don't say things like that for nothing. Sometimes they do, I answered, even if they're like me. Look here, he replied, I want you to tell me something, will you? I can't say till I know what it is. Has he been worrying on you? That was pretty quick of him, unless I'd really given him a show away even more than I thought. And it got me all confused, so that I said something silly like this. No, yes, no, of course not. You're not very good at fibs, he said. I don't know what you mean, I answered. And I think you'd better go down again now. Don't think I'm turning you out. Only, isn't it time you tried them again with something funny, perhaps? They'll laugh this time. And you're not very good at pretending you don't know what people mean when all the time you jolly well do, he said. He wouldn't be put off. No, it's time to go down and be funny, just yet. And you'll know what to do, I mean. All right, I suppose I do. But now you tell me something, I said. What makes you think Mr. Hopkins would worry me? Shall I tell you bluntly, he asked, or shall I wrap it up in cotton wool? You can tell me bluntly, I said. No wrap, no cotton, no wool needed. No, I'm not going to, he said. I should think of Mr. Hopkins, and I would worry more about anybody, but particularly a charming girl like you. That's what he said. It was silly that he turned red, but I couldn't help it. Of course, I had an answer for something. So I told him, like an idiot, that Mr. Hopkins hadn't worried me, but I was afraid that he might, and somehow that made it feel worse than if I ever knew and got as red as a beet. The damn bounder, he said. He said it so fiercely that he almost frightened me. You're not going to make a row, I begged him. I'd like to punch his nose, he answered. You can like to, certainly, but you won't, will you? I asked. Promise me. He promised me, and then I told him that I thought he really ought to go this time. Note that I wanted him to. I'm sure he understood that, but because of the others, and so, after a few more words, he went. One reason I thought he ought to go was because people are so rotten at thinking things. Of course, they're generally right. Okay, my friends, I think that's all I've got in me for tonight. We will continue tomorrow night with another reading. Until then, this has been Indiana Homes. Love to you all.
Please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notifications button. Thank you very much.